Well then, Happy New Year's Eve. We just had the largest solar flare of solar cycle 25. Should be another exciting day for the Daily Space Weather Show. And there it is. Right at the very end of that video there was an X5 class flare there. So we were almost too early for it to be timed right, but it couldn't have been timed better. Shout out to El Sol, aka Helios. So again, it'll be another interesting day or so for space weather. We do have some minor relativistic particles showing up, a massive radial blackout that covered almost the entire Pacific Ocean, caused by that solar flare attenuating the D layer of the ionosphere, folks. So yeah, good stuff going on in terms of space weather. Let's take a brief look. We'll come back to this 304 angstroms imagery here in just a moment, after we go over some. There's a sunspot situation, and that X flare came from it's a newly named sunspot, but it did make it all the way around the entire Carrington rotation. So yeah, that new sunspot rising there has made a grand entrance indeed. And let's briefly talk about what earthquakes volcanoes are currently erupting. There's a delightful map for you from volcanodiscovery.com. Those are what's erupting, and frankly, I wasn't aware of some of these, like the Michael volcano, Erebus, of course. Anyway, that's the current situation from the volcano station. This is the earthquake situation. Volcanoes, earthquakes. That's the past 90 days. Here are the past 24 hours. South Sandwich Islands had a 5.1 at 3:45 this morning. China had a 5.3 at 14:27 this afternoon, 14:23 on New Year's Eve, Universal Time. Chettaquake got a 5.3 magnitude, and let's get back to space, since it is where it's at. Space, a frontier. These are the voyages of the SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And some sweet footage there in ionized helium. And before we get to coronal holes, let's briefly talk space stats. Yeah, stats. Stats about space. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux is currently at 146 solar flux units. Solon.info will update that, I don't know, eventually. If anybody knows what time Solon.info updates their graph, let us know in the comments. But 146 is the new radio flux number. So a little bit of an uptick there despite the continued downtick in sunspot number. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard showing that NOAA has moved up the forecast. So NOAA has decided to forecast a delayed arrival of the coronal hole high-speed stream. Looks like indeed it has not shown up yet. So showing up a little bit later than we expected on the channel as well, although we expected it even earlier than NOAA did. So, hey, there you go. It's not here yet, so I don't know what to tell you. Facts. Next, the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space, and it is geomagnetically calm. You can see in this imagery, the sun would be to your left in these geospace magnetosphere movies. You can see most of the magnetohydrodynamic pressure is in the magnetotail as Earth's system attempts to reach static equilibrium. Earth's magnetic moment from the ground looking like this. Some significant aurora despite the geomagnetically calm conditions. So we may see some great imagery of aurora tonight. If you get any, share it with us on the channel. There are many places to contact us. So KP is only 1.33, kind of surprising how much geomagnetic perturbation we see on the map. A little bit out of the ordinary for a KP 1.33. Real-time solar wind looking like crap from the ACE. I mean, very slow and very diffuse, and looking very differently from the Discover. So also very slow, but a lot denser, about 3 times the density at Discover versus ACE, but also very slow. And we're seeing, once again, 2 separate solar wind regimes here. So maybe that is the coronal hole high-speed stream. It's a sputtering coronal hole high-speed stream. Oh, check it out. There's a density spike, too. About 30 protons per cubic centimeter. Yeah, not sure on that one. That could be a CME impact. Could be multiple different things going on there. That is pretty chaotic. Current conditions are about 6 protons per cubic centimeter, make it 7, and only about 300 kilometers per second. So definitely not a high-speed solar wind stream as far as the main regime at the moment. Only about 300 kilometers a second. Very, very slow. And we should see a big increase when the coronal hole high-speed stream does show up. Those magnetometers are pretty smooth. Here's the 7-day graph if you want a better contextualization, a better context. And next, looking at the top view, ecliptic plane field plot. So yesterday we said Earth might be in a North Pole sector by now, but not quite yet. Certainly by tomorrow we would expect to see a North Pole sector boundary crossing have already occurred by the time tomorrow's daily space weather video comes out. So that's the past 4 days. Here's our line of sight field plot. North Pole magnetic heliosphere sector is imminent. Last but not least, our coronal hole line of sight plot. We've got basically an east-west split right now. So at the moment, these are south, and these are north. Also some awesome filamentary activity happening up there in the northwest. There was a coronal mass ejection there, as well as some Hyder flare action, as some plasma has succumbed to the massive gravity of the closest star. Anyway, moving on to sunspots. Sunspot number still way down here at just above about 55 sunspots here is the current sunspot number from ROB, the Royal Observatory of Belgium. Here's our flare probability monitor. And while we still do have a possibility of a large flare in that northwestern limb up here, of course, now the most likely place to see a large flare is 100% certainty right there. So another fine example of how you don't need to see a big sunspot for a big solar flare. Again, the largest of the cycle has just occurred. And let's take a look at the SDO continuum. So a pretty modest looking sunspot there. And as far as the X-ray output of it, far from modest. So the continuum imagery might not look very exciting. While adding the 131 angstroms difference imagery, you can definitely see it gets pretty interesting there. Kaboom! That is an X5 class solar flare. We also did have some relativistic particles kicking up. It looks like only a minor event so far, but this could contain a huge spike. So at the moment, things are pretty chill. We usually show a 3-day. There you go. A little bit of an increase in the relativistic particles there, but barely enough to mention. Not enough to cause any polar radio blackouts at the moment. Peak flux was just before 2200 Universal Time on New Year's Eve, 12/31. At about 21:55, we saw an X5 class solar flare. Very nice, very nice. This flare brought to you by Levi's, as the peak flux was 501. Anyway, like I said, it caused massive radio blackouts, including most of the Pacific Ocean. Let's watch that play out. Wait for it. And the D layer is gonna get kaplastered as radio signals blast off into space instead of refracting down to their target. And before we get to any star charts, Shall we take a look at some more views of the closest star? What do you think? You think it's an opportune moment to do that? Seems like a smart idea. Here's 94 angstroms for the past 24 hours. Here's 131 angstroms. What's that? You want a closer view? Okay, is that close enough for you? We'll let those play through twice so you don't have to go back and try to use a slider for a 40-minute long video. And there it goes. Here's 131. And that was so timely that the last frame was literally still while the flare was trying to subside. And we'll get to some more imagery of CMEs for the past 24 hours here first. Some 24-hour videos showing wait a minute. First a star chart. Yeah, that's how we do it. So that's what's going on overhead right now. Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania is where we're located. And if you're new to the channel, drop us a line and let us know where you are. That's the past 24 hours and several CMEs happening there. Just, I don't think any of those are earthly directed. Here's a little closer look. Here's an even closer look, and we've added some additional difference imagery here to get a little bit more contrast there. It's 304 angstroms, 60-minute running difference, 193 angstroms raw imagery, and the Soho Lasco C2. Yeah, I don't think those are earthly directed. If you disagree, let us know in the comments. There is that same view, and we'll also show the full equatorial zoom. Very nice. And a banner day for space weather. Anyway, this is what's going on overhead right now. Here's your solar system forecast, courtesy of theplanetstoday.com. There's where things will be next year, which is only a few hours away, folks. And there's where things will be on the 7th. We will have a crescent waning moon as Earth makes its way around to the lonely side of the solar system. This side with zero gas giants. Next, the astronomy picture of the day, and this one's I don't know. You might like it, you might hate it. I don't know. I'm neutral on it. It's an interesting computer simulation using 20 million CPU hours in 2014, following 12 billion resolution elements spanning a cube 35 million light years. It's representing the evolution of the universe from about 13 billion years. So I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's too long, but it's showing, the formation of galaxies and filaments and galactic clusters and so forth. Pretty sweet. apod.nasa.gov if you want to go watch that entire thing. apod.nasa.gov. And now, some more CME images. Again, I already said those aren't earthly directed. There's today. I don't think those are earthly directed. Here's Lasco C2 and C3 by themselves. And next, let's get the filaments. So filaments are super important. They sometimes turn into CMEs, and of course, sometimes we see massive CMEs with no filaments. But there's a situation at the moment. You can see that one in the northwest did indeed blast off. It's almost completely gone now. And also this one down here in the, really it's kind of like a crown prominence there. It's pretty close to the southern polar region. You should be able to see that in the color imagery as well there from Cerro Tololo, Chile. Right there, wait for it, and see ya! Before we get the bonus features, we will show the latest from the GOES 16 SUVi. And that is a fairly long duration X-Class solar flare. Perfect timing for this video. Let's bring this back. Just perfect timing there for that. That's an interesting frame. 3 flares kind of happening there well outside of the I'll say the middle corona. Whoops. That was a high-speed activity. Very nice. And let's indeed get to bonus features. Learned something about Antarctica today. Did you know that you can claim a part of Antarctica? I guess you can. I don't know. Did you know that there's an actual pole at the South Pole? Yeah, for real, folks. And if you want to know who owns Antarctica, go read the wiki article about it. It's very strange. There are little slices where different countries have claims. The only portion that isn't claimed is the Marie Byrd Land. So, very weird. And I'll just leave it at that. Antarctica, folks. That's our first bonus feature of the day. Next, satellite charging hazards. We ain't got none. It's, hey, look at that. Now my finger's on top of it. Cheers. No satellite charging hazards. Smooth sailing. GOES electron flux here. Higher levels than we expected because we expected the coronal hole density wave to have already shown up. There's the 1-year graph of the relativistic electrons. Again, a little higher than we expected here, and a lot higher than NOAA expected. So we expect that next reading to be quite low. Again, high-speed stream on the way. And let's show the layer where it's measured. The layer known as F, which is right about there. It does vary in altitude, but it's approximately 300 kilometers. So this is this is 2 layers above the D layer that we showed you the radio blackout. This is higher than that. This is about 200 kilometers higher than that. The F layer, the bridge between Earth and space. There is the anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. We'll also show the WAM, the whole atmosphere model, the global ionosphere nowcast. Total electron contents over there on the right. On the left. Maximum usable frequency over there on the right. And does it show the huge radio blackout on the maximum usable frequency map? Let's see. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. As around this moment, there would be no maximum usable frequency. So anyway, that's the global ionosphere nowcast, the whole atmosphere model. Total electron content and maximum usable frequency. Maybe it's a forecast? I don't know, but it doesn't show the blackout, that's for sure. Anyway, here's the latest image. That's a high-res image from SDO. And here's the sunspot that's responsible for that or associated with that flare. There are some additional umbrae hiding behind the limb yet. So that sunspot is a lot more magnetically complex than it initially appeared. It's got more tricks up its sleeve. And let's get to meteorology. So the first thing we're going to cover in meteorology segment tonight is mean sea level pressure. Yeah, this frigid air that we talked about last night from Canada is kind of making its way down to the south. And it may look like a low, but it's actually a high pressure, probably just due to the extreme coldness of the air with respect to the air around it. So that makes this a relative high pressure zone. And you can see a little bit of a clockwise rotation trying to happen there, but it's pretty weak. It's not a super high pressure zone, but pressure pretty homogeneous over the U.S. right now. There's the full globe map. That's mean sea level pressure. The world's lowest pressure is, I think, in the Southern Ocean, or maybe it's this little hot spot right here. 962. That's pretty significant. Anyway, here comes the regularly scheduled meteorology segment. Surface winds of the eastern world. Shout out to our viewers from there. Happy New Year. Here are the jet streams from this side of the planet. Happy New Year to these viewers. There's the central world's jet streams, and here are your surface winds. Last but not least, the west. Shout out to our viewers from the west. Surface winds were first. Jet streams were second. And let's take a look at clouds and fog. Did you know you can use a 3.9 micrometer infrared radiation map to show you clouds and fog at nighttime? Yeah, because water vapor emits various infrared spectra, and 3.9 micrometers are a good wavelength to use to see clouds and fog at nighttime. There they are. And here is the source of the atmospheric river that keeps inundating California. There's more moisture to come, and it's basically being driven by that Pacific low there, now off the coast of San Diego, a few hundred miles, several hundred miles really. But that is what is responsible for all of that moisture. And there's more on the forecast. So California getting some more precipitation. We'll show you the forecast here in a moment. First, our temperature map. And let's bring this forward to midnight. There is the forecast on the Euro model for what temperatures will be like in the lower 48. And there's the GFS model. So if you're wondering how cold that is there, pretty cold. 5 degrees Fahrenheit there in central South Dakota. Also, parts of Nebraska aren't exactly warm at 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty chilly at Mitchell. And here's your weather.gov map. Weather.gov is where to get your weather warnings. If your area is lit, weather.gov, the National Weather Service homepage. Here comes some forecasts, courtesy of Tropical Tidbits. TropicalTidbits.com. If you want to make your own lovely GIF animation forecast, TropicalTidbits.com. Another website that doesn't endorse anything that I say. There is no official affiliation. There's all that moisture coming to California on the GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast. Here is our GFS 72-hour total accumulated precipitation forecast in inches. So it's not going to be all that wet, but again, additional moisture coming. Also to the Gulf states. Next, accumulated positive snow depth change in inches, the GFS 72-hour model. And the nation's most snow will be coming to California, although maybe Alaska will get more, but for the lower 48, California going to get some significant snowfall there. Anyway, there's the map. I won't try to explain it. That's why I show it. Next, the GFS 72-hour temperature anomaly forecast in degrees Celsius. Next, lightning. most of the lightning on this map showing up over South America. Here's a real-time lightning map, courtesy of lightningmaps.org. It's splentacular. Next time you hear thunder, I highly recommend it. Look at that, a very low number of strikes. Only 5.5 strikes per minute, folks. Oh my God, get in the bunkers, folks. It's a lightning shortage. The only thing spookier than a lightning surplus is a lightning shortage. And by the way, the only thing worse than a lightning surplus or a lightning shortage is you not pressing the like button. If you don't press like, we will not make another video until next year. I swear to God. Visit our links, press like, increase the probability these videos will continue to exist, remain publicly visible, and free for all to view. Smashomash.com is the homepage, and welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. It didn't start in 2023 or 2024. We launched that site in 2019. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel's leading contributor, Eugene the Philosopher. Are you interested in the intersection of meaning and physics? Well, maybe you ought to watch this video, Perpendicular Worlds. Look at that. He's making perpendicular hand motions and everything. He'll use sign language to explain the concept of perpendicular worlds. Eeks, that's a thumbnail, all right. That's make sure you press the like button. If you're new to the channel, press subscribe. Unless you don't want to have the world's most comprehensive daily space weather videos delivered directly to your YouTube subscription feed. I don't know, maybe you don't want such a thing. Who knows? People like all kinds of content, including content that makes absolutely no rational sense. So, I don't know, maybe you don't like the channel. It makes too much rational sense. Terribly sorry about that. But yeah, we won't be changing based on, the market craving nonsense on YouTube. So yeah, it's whatever. Welcome to the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. How you like that? That's a very, very big logo. Anyway, we'll close out this video with the latest Doppler radar, clouds and fog, and water vapor map. So there's the lower 48. We showed the full 50-state view briefly. There's the lower 48 view. Looks like some snow falling around the Great Lakes region. Here is clouds and fog as that low. It's moving it's just around the southwestern portion of Lake Michigan right now, and it'll be even more obvious on this water vapor map. Here's your recap. And that is where we'll have to call it a day, because it's all over, folks. It's all over. See you next year. I'm going to hide in the bunker before the fireworks and the champagne corks start to come off. Ta-da! Ta-da! And Happy New Year. Whoa!